We have a couple of gurus with us for just 45 minutes. Going to be a punishment for them to be very concise in their answers. This session is not about blockchain. It's about peer-to-peer blockchain, which is totally different because you will have end-to-end access between people. So it's empowering people. It's disempowering monopolies. So the internet today is run by monopolies, and I think we should have a go at reducing those monopolies to end-to-end access in order to make people powerful in their activities. And blockchain is, peer-to-peer blockchain is one of the methods of achieving this. So I would like to ask the audience, anyone has an IP address? Is that yours? So you are a member of the, where are you? So it's not, okay. I don't think anyone has his own IP address, even if you raise your hand. So you have the IP address of the router or of the service at your place. So I guess I'm not going to ask you if you have phone numbers or multiple phone numbers, which is very normal. But you don't have an IP address, which means that you're just a tourist on the internet, and you will not be capable to do blockchain the proper way, peer-to-peer blockchain. And the internet, at the beginning, started as a peer-to-peer internet, and then it was forked. Like any new technology, it got forked as well. So the forking in the internet was the addition of network address translation, meaning that you will not get an IP address, you will get just a temporary one, which you cannot use in order to do end-to-end access. So for instance, WhatsApp is a peer-to-peer application, but they are not using IP addresses, they are using your phone numbers. So it's an irony that the phone identifier is more important than the IP address, just because we have ruined the internet. So this panel is going to address these issues in order to tell you how we are going to restore the end-to-end, restore the peer-to-peer, in order to get one of the best killer applications in front of us, which is peer-to-peer blockchain. Okay? That's our interest, in the interest of the IPv6 forum. And here I have with me some great technologists in this area. I would like them to briefly introduce themselves before I start asking questions. Ralph.
Hi, I'm Ralph Wallace, and I can spell IPv6. And the reason I say that is that for 9 years I was, and by the way, nobody get upset. Nobody get upset. For 9 years I was a U.S. federal employee where I was the Internal Revenue Service IPv6 transition manager. Okay, nobody run away. Nobody run away. Technologist, not business. Technologist. And then after that, I worked with Verizon for a while. And currently, I'm the IPv6 lead in supporting the Veterans Affairs Administration of the United States with their IPv6 transition. And I'm working within Azure and AWS cloud environments, creating IPv6 only there. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague here on my left.
Yeah, Jake.
Thanks, Ralph. My name is Jake Jones. I am the head of infrastructure and business program manager with the BSV Association. And I've been with them for the past 3 years working on various projects such as Terranode and moving into some other new and exciting projects like overlays and SPV wallet. And all of these have to be integrated with IPv6. So hopefully we can get into that discussion today.
Can you speak louder, please, so we can hear you?
Hello, everybody. My name's Hugo Feiler. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Minima. Minima is a layer 1 blockchain. It is a UTXO power-backed blockchain that is lean and compact enough to run in full on mobile phones and IoT devices. That means that we can effectively allow all devices to become their own economic units at the edge. So you can generate tokens on device, you can do token attestation on device, and obviously you can do peer-to-peer communication and value transfer device to device. We are primarily working at the moment in the automotive industry with a number of sort of live use cases, which obviously we'll probably get into later on, but really nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Greg.
Thank you. My name is Gregory Ward. I'm the Chief Development Officer and co-founder of Smartledger Solutions. We are an enterprise-grade blockchain development house and distribution channel. We have created applications in the space of concert and event and virtual ticketing for physical and virtual events. We've created cybersecurity applications. We have partnerships with IoT devices capturing weather data. All of these applications, as my colleagues on stage pointed out, require IPv6 for a true value-driven environment between stakeholders. So I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Greg. You have already responded to the first question, so you have to find something else. So we'll make it very simple. The first one is, what are the benefits of adding IPv6 or putting IPv6 on top of blockchain, or the other way around? And the second question will be, what are the challenges? And there are many, especially for a large-scale thing that you are working on, many of you here in this place. And the third one is the visions. So I'm going to go back again to Ralph and tell us about the benefits. I know you can talk for hours. If you can give us...
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, yes.
Just give us the silver bullets.
After all these years of explaining to people the business case, the appropriate business case for IPv6 within enterprises, it's interesting what actually generates the interest. And so the benefits for IPv6 is reduction of administrative overhead. And now this is inside your enterprise or across the internet, the IPv6 internet. How many people in here understand that there's an IPv4 internet and an IPv6 internet? Hands, please. You know what? That, by the way, in other conferences I've been at, this is a better audience. Reason being is that as soon as you understand that, you're going, wait a minute, the future is IPv6. Why is it the future? Again, reduction of administrative overhead, increase in opportunity for cybersecurity. If I told you right now that you go to an IPv6 enterprise, you can actually start removing network infrastructure because you don't need it with IPv6. So all of a sudden people go, wait a minute, I can save money on CapEx? Yes, you can. You can save money on OpEx for your enterprises going to IPv6. Wait a minute, money talks. Cybersecurity improvements. What if I said that every segment for IPv6, you can ensure it's encrypted, authenticated, and encrypted using IPsec? If you don't know what that is, see me after the panel. But having that encryption and allowing people in your cybersecurity team to know exactly what's there, because it's point-to-point. It's peer-to-peer. There's no network address translation. When you announce your prefix to the internet, that same prefix goes all the way down to that host. IPv4 cannot do that. It's impossible. So that's benefits. What do you want me to do next? Jake.
So building off what Ralph just said, when it comes to blockchain, we have to ask ourselves, what is the value proposition of blockchain? What's it providing that current systems don't provide yet? And we have to look no further than the title of the Bitcoin white paper, peer-to-peer electronic cash. And so peer-to-peer is right in the title. That means direct communication between two peers without a trusted third party. So we're replacing the requirement of having a trusted third party in between two peers talking to each other. The other feature is electronic cash or microtransactions, micropayments. And that means that we need to have a lot of different micropayments, a lot of different transactions in order to facilitate the type of volume that cash requires. And so those two pieces together need IPv6 because you need to have the address space in order to give every single device its own global address, like what Ralph was just talking about. So those are the requirements, those are the benefits that IPv6 brings to the table, a few of them anyways. You can get into a little bit more complex ones, but I'll pass it on to Hugo.
Thank you. Yes, Hugo.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, so building, again, obviously coming at it from a blockchain perspective, we are looking at embedding now blockchain nodes.
Can you speak louder, please?
Can everyone hear me okay? we're looking at embedding blockchain nodes on the head units of vehicles so that we can get telemetry data from those vehicles, and we can also allow vehicles to talk to devices by the side of the road, whether that is toll roads, whether that is EV charging, and also allow vehicles to talk to each other as well. So, if you're driving along, as we move towards autonomous driving, one car has got to be able to alert another car that they can see a cyclist that the other car can't see, so they need to be careful when they're overtaking. It's that kind of level of evolution that we're looking at, and obviously a blockchain can only work if it has connectivity. So the IPv6, that allows that to happen, and it allows more and more devices to come on board. So we're looking at an industry that has a sort of a green field. In terms of development, it's not looking to rip and replace existing solutions. It's looking to find new solutions to a new evolution within automotive as a real world use case. So we're very excited about this evolution, and because it will allow every IoT device to have its own connectivity, and therefore also be running a node as well. So those two things are converging at exactly the right time for us and for the automotive industry.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Coming from an application perspective, I think the IPv6 lends a lot of value to various industries. A lot of our partners within, let's say, the music industry, they want to know how they could have direct engagement with their consumers. They want to know how they could, have direct value that they could deliver to these clients and consumers of theirs, their fans. Through IPv6, we have the ability to associate device with identity, and we're able to have better direct communication between, let's say, an artist, influencer, and their community. But in general, identity, although Bitcoin allows a firewalled identity, we're able to associate that with our IPv6 addresses and our IPv6 devices and have more two-factor and three-factor authentication to where it goes everything from your benefits of a music industry, but all the way to cybersecurity. We were speaking earlier with Hugo's brother about something like you can imagine nuclear codes having two keys having to turn, and you're requiring knowing who is the identity of this person holding this device biometrically associated with their IPv6 address and all these things. And now we have serious responsibility and accountability and auditability over activity, right? When we need it publicly available, where it's a nuclear code, or when it's privately needed, we could obfuscate and firewall identity, but still have a direct communication between application and those who are benefiting from the value that we're trying to give.
Okay, so I guess now we know what the benefits are, but most probably we don't know what the challenges are and the problems as well. I'll reverse now. We'll start with you again. So what are the challenges we will have or we have that we have to...
Well, I think as Ralph pointed out, we're lucky to have so many people who understand IPv6 in this particular audience. I don't think that the world needs to know about IPv6 specifically, right? Like those who are going on Spotify or the newest blockchain music application doesn't need to know about IPv6. They're gonna know all the value that's coming to them. It's the enterprises and getting them on board and selling them on the value of the transition. So I think that's probably the biggest obstacle, is just getting people to realize all the value, and as Ralph pointed out, the efficiencies and the cost savings that we'll be able to deliver through IPv6, and the necessity, as Jake pointed out, in order to actually monetize all of these devices that we have. We're living in a world of IoT, your smart refrigerator, your smart phone, your smart whatever, toaster, I don't know. Everything is going to need this. So we have obstacles because there's a lack of knowledge, but I think that the value driven is going to change that.
Yeah, Hugo?
So I think, again, you'll know this far better than me, but I get the sense that the fact that IPv6 is not sort of backwards compatible with IPv4 means that people are sort of, if they don't have to do something, they won't until they have to. And so there's always a level of slowness to pick these things up. So I think that I think the process will be that people need to understand the necessity and the benefits that will come from it. I mean, as more and more IoT devices come on board, then the necessity for IPv6, I think, will become more apparent. At the moment, we're still in that transition phase where enterprises can cope with what they have now. They sort of make do because the sort of standard is set, and the standards are very difficult to break away from. I mean, we see that in many ways in a similar way with blockchain. You know, blockchain has huge benefits in terms of efficiency, transparency, security, and everything like that. But still, enterprise companies are reluctant to do that, and that might be a purely, you know, a sort of a psychological thing. You know, when you have, people sort of running the businesses who've been running it for 20 years in the same way, they're not going to disrupt themselves in their last 5 years of their career to rip and replace something that is brand new to them. So we're sort of in that transition phase when the new guard needs to come on board, understand the benefits that both blockchain and IPv6 give to the companies, and then sell that through into the management of these organizations. So again, it's not just a technical challenge, it's also a human one, I think, because no one likes change. Although we all know that change needs to happen and needs to come. So I think it's a balance of those two things.
Thank you, Jake.
I definitely agree with what you said, Hugo. And I would call that inertia, because there's only really two ways to get people to do something. Either they're getting to a point where they have to do it, because if they don't, something's going to happen, or there's an alternative that's so much better to what they're doing now that it makes sense for them to switch. So the challenge is getting things to the point that people will make one of those two decisions. And so when it comes to blockchain, it's being able to demonstrate all of the new business models that are now possible by way of micropayments. So you don't have to depend on ad revenue anymore. You don't have to depend on monthly subscriptions. You can actually charge as a pay-as-you-go per use model, and that's something that is really foreign. So it takes some time to seep into the collective conscience before those types of things happen. So the challenge is really finding what those points are and making sure that people are aware of them, and then having the patience and the time to let those seep in and have people make those decisions.
Thank you. So my friend, Ralph.
How of these gentlemen over here just said, oh, by the way, the culture's different. For you people out there who work in offices, or, you know, how many times have you talked to your IT people and says, am I using IPv4? No, you don't do that. Why? Not your need. Your need is to conduct business. IT is here to ensure that you conduct business. Who was the first CIO? It was the CFO, right? Because they had all the accounting business stuff. So here we are with the challenge for IPv6. It's like, why IPv6? Now for me, in 2005, when the first US government memo came out saying, go to IPv6, everybody went, why? And I've been one of these guys that going, well, here's the reason why. Here's the value proposition. This is what we can do here. We can reduce money spending here for CapEx, for OpEx. We can increase our cybersecurity posture. We can do all of these things. And of course, as soon as you say it to somebody, they go, well, how come nobody told me this before? Well, I'm here. I'm telling you now. So part of the challenge is people like you now understanding that, oh, by the way, when I log on with my laptop, do you have an IPv6 address? Do you care? No. Can I do my business? Yes. But now you can ask the question and go, wait a minute, am I using the next version of the internet? Is my enterprise, who's taking care of me, am I using the next version of the network protocol that's going to make it easier for people to run the business? If you're talking about time to market for your data and you're not using IPv6, your competitors are eating your lunch. So the challenge is, do you know that you actually are using the latest version of the next generation of the internet, which has been around for a while? It's stable. It's going to work. So is it a challenge? It's the awareness question that I think all of my other colleagues here said.
I'm glad to have very disciplined panelists to stick to their time and be concise in their responses. So the vision, 3 visions for each one of you. I'll start with you again, Greg.
Vision would be to fully see IPv6 implemented across the board. I think we have an amazing synergy of IoT, blockchain, scalability, enterprise, Terranode capabilities, mixed with IPv6 that's long, his day has been long due, right? It's, as the gentleman on the stage pointed out, it's been around for a very long time. It's just people didn't see the value or the need, but now we just have the ability to now have geolocation capabilities, direct peer-to-peer payments. So my vision is, again, as we said, to abstract away all the complexities, to just deliver value upon value upon value, and also at the same time, my vision is to be able to provide as much of the privacy that humanity deserves, right, and needs and wants and it requires, at the same time provide as much value and benefit out of the devices that you have in your pockets, and be able to enjoy all the content that people are making, and you as a content creator maybe, or a cybersecurity expert, deliver all the value that your company can deliver through IPv6. And I think that we'll see that it really is going to make a big difference in the underlying technology, the plumbing.
Thank you, Craig.
So yeah, I mean our vision and my vision for the for where everything is going. As I say, our blockchain runs at the moment in full on Android devices. It runs in full on car head units and on Raspberry Pis. We're about to make an announcement very soon about a partnership with a chip designer, a global chip designer, where effectively we're putting Minima on chip. So that means that every single connected device will be able to come fitted with a fully functioning full node where you're doing construction and validation of the network. So if you imagine what that then means for the future, where every single device effectively is adding to the security of a network to be able to transfer value across that network and to transfer communication across that network. And obviously IPv6 is the way that this is going to be enabled from a sort of an infrastructure perspective. So I think the use cases are endless. Everyone sort of talks about when's the next sort of billion users going to be onboarded with blockchain. They're only going to be onboarded with blockchain when they don't even know it's happening. I mean, I think to your point as well, they don't care what the technology is. They don't care how it works or why it works. They just care what they're going to get out of it, which is understandable. Everyone has a busy life. They're not trying to work out how a car runs. They just need to know that it gets from A to B. So I think that is the plan. And this wouldn't have been possible 20 years ago. But now we're sort of down that line, and so now technology and the devices are capable of doing that kind of stuff. And so the only thing to wait for now is for people to find the utility that these devices can give to people, and the way they go, they'll be using it.
Thank you. Jake?
So, Tim Berners-Lee came up with the concept of the semantic web. This has got to be at least 15 years ago. And in this new idea that he had, he called this Web 3. And so Web 3 is a term that's been around for a long time. And the concept of the semantic web is essentially you're going past just pure hyperlinks, and you're adding semantic connections between these hyperlinks. This is metadata and how everything is connected. And so that's kind of where I see blockchain coming in and making this stuff possible, because nobody's just going to implement this, as we talked about the inertia. You need the incentives. You need to have value added to the semantic web. So it's Web3 to me is the semantic web of value.
Right.
And that's where I see blockchain coming in. So it's going to be drawing these connections via micropayments. And Stephen Bartlett was talking about earlier, he used the Ford analogy where the innovators were trying to get a faster horse and they didn't even see the car coming. I think this is kind of, we're ending up in the same situation here where people are looking at this still from a Web 2 perspective, and they want to jam everything in through this perspective using a server or whatever, what have you. It's very hard to think about what a peer-to-peer internet really looks like, and I think this is where things are going. So as this stuff starts to seep into the collective conscience and people start to understand it more clearly, the answers are going to become a little bit more clear. But yeah, it's going to be this new way of looking at things that comes down to microtransactions, micropayments, and all of the new ways of looking at data that brings along with it.
Okay, thank you.
There you go. Well, you know, how many people in here understand applications and where applications fit with their network protocol? Now, there's a few of you in here that are going, oh yeah, I got this, right? So one of the things with an IPv6 transition, whether it's I'm talking about inside the enterprise, the long pole in this tent is your applications. Why? Your applications have hard-coded IPv4 addresses inside of them. Why do they have hard-coded IPv4 addresses inside of them, you ask? Here I am going, well, back in the day, the only protocol you had was IPv4. So how do you resolve a host on a network? How do you go host a host on a network? Hard-coded IPv4 address. Why? Because your domain name service wasn't there available to do this. Now, that's fine. I did some esoteric type of stuff. Just to let you know, today, for the IPv6, we tell people do not hard-code IP addresses inside of them. Why? You don't need to. The DNS is going to be fine to help you out with that. The challenge, though, is that, wait a minute, I've been doing this organizational change management, right, guys? This is the way we've been doing it. We've been making money. Why do I need to change? Well, because it's easier to do stuff over IPv6, and you can't show it to them, right? I'm from Missouri. As a U.S. guy, I got to say that. So I'm from Missouri. Show me. Well, as soon as you start showing them that, they go, "Wait a minute, it's that easy?" Seriously, I really tell everybody to accept this challenge. Pilot IPv6 within your enterprises. Pilot it. I don't care how big a pilot it is. Pilot it and show the proof. I'm living proof that latencies are reduced, bit error rates are reduced, you increase your cybersecurity posture, right? So my vision is that everybody gets onto IPv6 and understands the value of IPv6. When the National Science Foundation took over from DARPA the whole IPv4 component, and then the World Wide Web Consortium came up and said, here's a uniform resource locator, so it's google.com instead of 192.168.6.1, right? As soon as that came up, everybody said, hey, I want my own website. How many people in here got a new website, got their own website? I ran a bulletin board, you know, at 9600 baud, right, for a long time, and then I got my own website because I could. That was an internet economy. I'm coining the phrase internet economy. My vision is that people understand that when you're using the internet, it betters your life. We're in an information age. That when you realize the value of information is when you use it to effect decisions. Now we can start talking about AI. No. But the point though is here's your information. Does IPv6 give you a better opportunity to have increased reliability of the information that you have? Yes, that's part of my vision.
Excellent. So it's very simple. We have today about 2.5 billion people using IPv6 without knowing it. And that's the way it should be for the time being. And we want to achieve 10% of this to use blockchain in the next couple of years. That's 250 million people. That is not impossible if we put the real marketing technology efforts in order to do this. And I think I see a great community here to achieve this together with us. Second one is we are going to sunset IPv4 and NAT in the next 8 years, probably by 2032. So everyone will be basically on a peer-to-peer internet. What do you call it? Web 3, whatever. It's internet. So it's a blockchain internet. That would be a fantastic achievement to empower every single person to have an opportunity, be it for education or for business or for whatever, or for guys like Kevin to do his shows around the world. This is really something very important for all of us, which is quite important for our future. And we have another 12 minutes for Q&A. It's amazing that I could get these people under control. That's unbelievable. Yes, please. Do we have a mic, mobile mic?
And we have another one.
Most probably was not foreseen.
Before it goes, can I just say something? Notice I didn't say a thing about blockchain in my presentation, my component. Why?
Because it's irrelevant.
Right.
Yeah.
But so is blockchain relevant? Yes.
Yes.
Are there other technologies that can use IPv6?
Yes.
Are they relevant? Absolutely. We're here at the Latif and I and my colleagues are here at the blockchain conference because this will work. We know it will work. We know it will work, and the risk is low. The value proposition is high with blockchain. So just want to make sure you understand. I'm here. I'm an advocate. I drank the Kool-Aid.
Most probably you have answered the question coming up. Yes, please. Yeah, sorry.
Can I go first?
Ladies first,
sorry.
yes.
Okay, so as Latif and I discuss all the time.
The panelists, please.
I'm just saying we've talked about this quite a bit. So when I first started going to crypto conferences back in the day, everybody talked about the advent of the web, and the original web had security, and certain people wanted backdoors, and it had payment rails. So as I always say to you guys, and we discussed yesterday, I see this as the real Web 3, right? But what's taken so long? We have 8 billion people on the planet. Why are we only going for 10%? Why is it taking so long, and how do we get the majority of the people on the planet?
So the question is to me, in this case,
Anyone.
10% blockchain. So that's really big achievement, because when you do that, you confirm that the technology is working, because the top guys of this planet will be doing this. And these are the reference models and the low-hanging fruits and the pioneers that do that.
Yeah.
And you need to get to the 10%.
Yeah.
The rest will follow. Okay, so it's very important. And this, we've seen in all kinds of technologies that you have to get the good guys to do it to show how it's done. It's very normal. It's like having professors teaching you something. The same thing applies to new technologies. Okay?
I'll add to that.
Where are you? Can you?
Is that only from a? Sorry.
Sure. Yes.
Yep. I say mainly from a blockchain perspective, obviously, but it's UX and UI. At the moment, it's a pain in the arse to use crypto. The people that do it are crypto natives who are in it for, the financial incentives around it. And so until it becomes as easy for everyone to use, then, it's always going to be a big barrier. And people are, they have busy lives. So trying to get their head around it. And also, I don't think the media doesn't help it, because they love a scandal and they love a bad thing. And so, all the bad stuff comes out and floats to the top rather than all the good stuff that can come out. But again, we're working hard on reversing that, basically.
Well, I think it's also application-based as well, right? If you had Netflix come out with IPv6, inherently involved in their mobile version, or, right, some of our work in IPv6, we found that some of the larger partners that we had haven't implemented in some of their infrastructure. So it's working with infrastructural, right? But also, as Hugo pointed out, let's say, again, not to use a silly example, if TikTok had beneficial loyalty points and so on and so forth, that's IPv6 blockchain driven, it's going to be just accepted because of more benefit people are. So I think it's going to be a mass adoption through either a kind of a 100th monkey type of situation where, I mean, maybe we just all kind of pile in through various applications, or you might have one that really kind of pushes it into the sphere. But I think it's happening. I mean, it's accountability, payments, right? All these things. Right. Anyway, next question.
Just real quick one. The gentleman yesterday at the keynote, I thought was doing very, very good when we started talking about porn. And so here's John's going, yep. So one of the things 10 years ago, actually 14 years ago, we said, what's the killer application for IPv6? I said, put all the porn sites on IPv6. Gaming, porn, whatever like that. Now, I'm not being facetious. Okay? What's the value of getting the data time to market? Goes back to my point earlier. Data time to market. Allow you to have the information so that you can make the right decision process. If you can get it faster, you're ahead of your competition. Sir.
Next question. There he is.
Hello. Hi. I tried to get a Danish ISP to implement IPv6, and it took them a long while, and then they answered me back that they were uncomfortable with having their internal servers accessible from the internet. How do I respond to that?
Tell them to get a web proxy.
Change your ISP.
Yeah, that's true. Change the ISP. You get a proxy. You use your web proxy. You get your recursive DNS resolver. There's ways to do this, right? And I mean, how do you? In the IRS, we got IPv6 global unicast throughout the IRS. Does anybody have access to any host inside the IRS? No. So he said, change your ISP.
So basically, the first IPv6 router in the world was invented in Denmark, in Aarhus. And I was the VP of that company, so it was the first V6 router in the world. And we tried to convince the ISPs there. So we've done it in the research network, but the ISPs didn't want to do it because they had plenty of V4 addresses. Same thing applies to Scandinavia for unknown reasons, why they are so relaxed. They say, well, it's going to happen one of those days. So. Okay? So you can get ISPs from outside of Denmark as well. Huh?
Any other questions? I mean, go ahead, 5. There's who else?
Please.
There you go.
Thank you for the precious insight. It's about user perspective, right? So you mentioned about IPv6, you get lots of devices on the internet, but with that comes a threat as well. So on the edge, when you have threat intelligence, you are overwhelmed with number of IP addresses. So you get indicators of compromise. So how is the defense going to work when there are so many devices on the internet and to block the malicious IPs?
I can answer that.
Sure.
If you don't mind.
Go for it.
You're not angry. Okay. When I created the defense in depth architecture for cybersecurity for the Internal Revenue Service, as you heard me say earlier, none of our hosts, nodes, anything, okay, is on the internet, on the IPv6 internet. They're internal to the enterprise. Do we have access to the internet? Absolutely, through a web proxy, right? Do we have perimeter firewalls? Yes. Do we have edge routers with their ACLs, access control lists in there? Yes. Do we have endpoint firewalls? Yes. So here's all of these elements that are there to ensure you're protected. Your point lends me to believe that you've done some studies, right? And part of the concerns, and this is one of the things too, there's people out there that churn. And that information that you have right there is part of that churn. And because of that churn, that's fine. Come talk to me afterwards and I'll give you a defense in depth architecture that actually works really, really well. And it works for 512 locations across the United States with over 90,000 workstations and 40,000 servers.
Yeah, to add to this, take the
these
mic.
Are devices.
The mic.
Mike, please. Your question is valuable.
Sorry, just to follow up. So I get it. You have a proxy, and you kind of convert that into IPv4. But when you have, smart devices in your vehicles, all of them talking to your servers, right? How do you keep track of that use set of IP addresses and figure out what's malicious and what to block?
The reason I'm laughing is that one of the things that I'm doing with this new property that John Lee and I are starting up is that many of the problems with large enterprises is that they don't have IP address management. They don't understand that because IPv4, I just need another block. Just put some more IPv4 out there, and I'm going to do a network address translation. I don't need any really good way to know what's going on. IPv6, it's huge. One segment, just one segment, right? One local area network, right? One segment. 18 trillion IPv6 global unicast addresses. It's inconceivable for somebody to go, oh, wait a minute. You're giving me that many addresses? Now, an IoT device, how many IoT devices are needed in order to accomplish this function? Which I think that's one of the things you're bringing up. Okay? So it's nice to know that you can do it right with IPv6. But you have to understand the architecture. You have to think it through. You have to follow appropriate engineering rigor.
Maybe I can just jump in and add a bit of a blockchain perspective to that too.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's good.
From the perspective of blockchain, it's kind of flipping things around a little bit. So instead of trying to hide or occlude information like we're doing with NAT and we're doing with separate networks, we're making everything public. And that doesn't mean that you have to share all the details of everything,
right.
But we're making every one of these actions public. So you can do an integrity check on what's happened, and then you know what's happened. You can go back and correct things that happened, or you can be alerted, like one of the products that Greg's company has been working on. They do this, and it'll tell you that something happened. It'll give you an alert so you're aware of it. The more light gets shined on an area, the less crime that's happened. That's a well-known study. They just added street lamps to a street, and crime reduced.
By the way, don't deploy IoT with NAT. It's hackable immediately.
Can't.
So, and we are at 0-0. We can take maybe another question. Oh yes,
okay,
sure.
Thank you. I just had one question. What role will ISPs play in the MetaNet, in the semantic web of value, and what role will blockchain play in the service offerings of ISPs?
Two separate questions.
Go ahead.
We have 20 seconds. What was the first one? Sorry?
ISP.
What role would the ISPs play in the new Web3, and then what role would blockchain play?
Let me hit on ISPs. Can I do ISPs?
Yeah.
Okay. New ISPs. There are no more IPv4 addresses. Literally. That we've ran out. They're gone. You want to know what the price is for a single IPv4 address is now? Between $60 and $70 for one. Just one address. All right? So people like Skynet, right? Skynet?
You cannot buy one IP address.
I know you can't. It's all block. It's all
yeah, you have to buy a block. That's $15,000.
But yeah, $50,000. So ISPs, where are you going with this? You have to understand this. And you can't NAT stuff that bad, because if you NAT it, you're breaking things down. Next over to you.
Sure, yeah. So I think the great part about the direction this is moving, and with microtransactions, is things are going to get smaller and they're going to get more diversified. So we're probably going to see ISPs not necessarily break out. They might still be the same company, but we'll see them kind of divide themselves among more regions. And then in the ideal world, you'll get regionalized or local pockets of people setting up almost their own ISP, and then you'll be able to pay them to use their network in that specific area. And it's almost like the toll road concept being applied in a whole bunch of different places, just because you have the power of microtransactions.
So which brings me to we have to close. So a few words. You are the future blockchain. You are the only people that are doing the right thing for blockchain, for the enterprise, for the governments, for the industry. It will take a lot of efforts, because we went through the same thing with IPv6. It took us 25 years to get to 50%. will not take you that much because you will be using IPv6 right from the beginning, so you'll be de facto standardized as IPv6 end-to-end, peer-to-peer application, and one of the largest in the future.
May I say one last thing? All of us are available. We're here at the conference. You see us afterwards. Pigeonhole us, pull us off to the side. We're more than willing to talk to you about what we have involved with our vision, our challenges, and our successes. So please feel free.
My vice moderator with me, so he said what I wanted to say as well, which is great. So enjoy your conference, and we'll look at your efforts in the future. And most probably, some of you might be sitting in this panel in the future. All right? Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.